Live from the Telesur English headquarters in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Soini Gray. In Brazil, news of a possible breakthrough in the case of the murdered councilwoman Marielle Franco and her driver is just coming in. This morning, the police arrested a former military policeman who was believed to be inside the vehicle that targeted Franco and her driver Anderson Gomes. The officer was arrested in connection with another case, but was identified as a suspect in the assassinations. Franco's murder on March 14 sparked massive protests throughout Brazil for months, with many people believing the police were involved. She was a strong activist against the militarization of Rio de Janeiro. And a new declaration by President Mauricio Macri in Argentina could see the increased militarization of the state. Edgardo Esteban has more.
An official security reform has been signed by President Mauricio Macri, which authorized a new national defense system which enables the armed forces to participate in internal security operations. Human rights organizations are mobilizing against the move with planned protests to be held in front of the Ministry of Defense. They call the presidential announcement a threat to democracy that could take the country back to the times of the military dictatorship, where 30,000 people disappeared. Several opposition parties rejected the decision and demanded the Congress review a law in which social protests are not repressed or persecuted by security forces. It is a tense situation where social organizations spark concerns over Macri's government's intention to intensify the violent crackdown on social activists and movements.
Now we continue in Colombia, where the Special Jurisdiction for Peace has summoned almost 2,000 army members to appear in court to testify in the case known as false positives. This is the third case opened by the special court. Officials have said this is a priority investigation due to the number of military men involved in the case and also because of their high rank. The false positive case has revealed the murder of civilians in remote parts of the country during Colombia's internal conflict allegedly perpetrated by the military. Ecuadorians living in the UK are protesting against Ecuadorian President Lenin Moreno, who is currently in London to take part in the Global Disability Forum. Dozens of people demonstrated outside the forum's headquarters to criticize Moreno's policies and to reject what they call the political persecution against the former president, Rafael Correa, and his former vice president, Jorge Glass. They also chanted in favor of Julian Assange's freedom. Assange has been refugeed in the Ecuadorian embassy in London since 2012. People also protested outside the hotel where Moreno is staying on Monday, and more demonstrations are scheduled to happen outside the Ecuadorian embassy in London later on Tuesday.
We are protesting because Lenin Moreno has been invited to represent people with disabilities from Ecuador, but he is actually cutting all the rights achieved during the 10 years of citizen revolution. He is prosecuting the leaders that changed our country, Rafael Correa, Jorge Glass, and he is now also betraying Ecuador when the country accepts political asylum for Julian Assange. We are very disappointed and concerned that Ecuador is coming back to the neoliberalism era.
And our correspondent in London, Pablo Navarrete, brings us more details.
Ecuadorian President Lenin Moreno is speaking at this moment behind me in the convention centre in East London, the Queen Elizabeth Convention Centre, as part of the 2018 Global Summit on Disability, where he has been invited to speak. Now, his visit to Britain, where he arrived on Friday, was to officially take part in this meeting, although according to the Intercept website and journalist Glenn Greenwald, the real reason for his visit was to hold high-level talks with British government officials to effectively hand over Julian Assange to the UK authorities. The speculation is rife that this will happen at any moment, and there has been a number of protests. Just now, there were members of the Ecuadorian community and other supporters of Julian Assange who came to show their opposition to Lenin Moreno's presence. yesterday at his hotel in central London. There was a large contingent of protesters, and later on today at the Embassy of Ecuador there will be a larger protest made up again of members of the Ecuadorian community and supporters of Julian Assange. So it would appear that Lenin Moreno is in the UK. He will be then visiting Edinburgh, but he is here officially to take part in this meeting of the 2008 Disability Conference. But it looks like that Julian Assange's days are numbered following Lenin Moreno's visit.
Now, Ecuador's Court of Justice upheld the detention order against former President Rafael Correa. Correa's defense team and his supporters believe Ecuadorian authorities are behind a political persecution.
The National Court of Justice has reiterated the precautionary measure ordered by the judge Daniela Camacho, who has requested the preventive detention of former President Rafael Correa. According to the court's judge, Correa did not comply with the precautionary measure, which said he has presented himself before the Secretary of the Court in Quito. Instead, Rafael Correa decided to present himself before the consulate in Belgium, where he actually lives with his family.
The Attorney General of the state will have to decide if he moves to accuse him or not. If he does, we will move with him, and if we manage to convince the judge, she will have to call a trial. The regulation says that if a person is called to trial and doesn't show up, the court will declare him a fugitive, and the trial will be suspended until he is captured or he is presented to the court.
The defense team of former President Rafael Correa has requested an appeal hearing to argue that the decision taken by the court was unconstitutional and arbitrary. They also continue to view these moves against Correa as political persecution.
It is regrettable. We want the court to be transparent and fair and to take international treaties into consideration. But looking back at what we have said to the public prosecutor, we are concerned about the lack of objectivity within the justice system.
Correa's defense team also stated they will proceed with international measures to prove the former president's innocence. Ecuadorian prosecutors are linking Correa to the alleged kidnapping of the ex-politician Fernando Valda. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
Time now for a short break, but join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Students and teachers in Chile are calling for the resignation of the education minister after he suggested that schools should hold raffles if they need money. After criticizing the poor conditions of schools across the country, Minister Gerardo Varela said schools should hold bingos instead of asking for money from the government. Varela said he was tired of dealing with these requests every day. Student associations and lawmakers are calling him irresponsible and unfit to fulfill his position. Students in Nicaragua demanded justice for the victims of the political crisis in the country. They denounced opposition violence against them as they commemorated the Day of the Student in the country. They also remembered the heroes of the July 23rd massacre in 1959, when students from the National University of Nicaragua were killed by the National Guard. It happened during a protest against the dictatorship of Anastasio Somoza and its complicity in the crimes committed by the Honduran army in that part of the country. Protesters in South Trinidad protested poor road conditions by setting fire to them. Residents from Barkpo ground traffic to a halt on a busy Monday morning by setting fire to tires and other debris until midday, when police and fire officers stepped in to clear the rubble.
The road is over terrible. We fed up, beg councillors, MP to fix our road. We didn't have to do this today, but no other choice.
Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness is in Namibia, where he met with the President, Dr. Hage Geingob, and other top officials. The two governments discussed strengthening the nation's historic relationship, developing partnerships in trade, and ease of travel between the two countries. Geingob said Jamaican nationals would be exempted for applying for visas to Namibia. Holness is expected to travel to South Africa next to attend the BRICS summit. In Antigua and Barbuda, the lower house has passed legislation which bans smoking in enclosed public spaces, including public transportation. In 2016, the Pan-American Health Organization reported that Antigua and Barbuda lagged behind most countries in the Americas in this legislation. The biggest contention in Monday's vote was how far away from a public building smokers would be allowed to light up. A compromise was made to amend the proposed 30 meters to 15 meters instead.
You're telling someone who is at a function that they have to walk 100 feet from their family to smoke a cigarette. I am saying to you, I just find that 100 feet may be a bit excessive, bearing in mind is outside of the building.
I do think that the 30 meters might be a little excessive, and let us try and come to a common ground. Let us say 15 meters or something to that extent.
Campesinos from the Western Valleys are marching to Caracas to demand being heard by President Nicolas Maduro. They are denouncing irregularities by government officials who they say have boycotted the agro-food productive process.
Campesinos have been marching for 12 days, and they still have 170 kilometers to go before reaching Caracas with their mission of saving agricultural production.
We need supplies so we can maintain our crops in order to feed our people.
Government institutions are full of officials who are not doing their work. They are corrupt, inefficient, lazy. This kind of bureaucracy has hurt us campesinos and our fields.
Small farmers do not want to deal with middlemen anymore. They want President Maduro to listen to them and act on their demands.
We mean to define what are the failures and to formulate a strategy to dismantle these mafias that have unfortunately taken over and are damaging the campesino sector.
Campesinos assert that landowners have ordered the killings of over 300 campesino leaders with the goal of taking away their lands. Justice has yet to be served.
Today, we are marching for our dignity, to reclaim our worth. We are the ones working the land and feeding the people. The people saves the people, so we call on President Maduro to help us.
Campesinos are willing to defend the Bolivarian revolution, and this means achieving food sovereignty. With this goal, they will continue to march, trusting that they will be received by President Maduro in Miraflores Palace.
Telesur, in its 13th anniversary, continues in its drive to be the source of alternative media for the people of Latin America and the world as it prepares for the challenges of the next 13 years.
On July 24, Telesur was born. The pretty girl of the integration was the words of Venezuelan Commander Hugo Chavez. And now, 13 years after its creation, what began as a television channel has now become an informative multimedia outlet, with 24 hours of transmission, 7 days a week in Spanish and English, with immediate news updates on the webpage.
In the coming weeks, 25 countries in Africa will receive the Telesur signal. So what is our projection? It is the size of our dreams. and we have never given up on our dreams. There are many who told us that it was impossible. Amidst the difficulties that we have faced over the years, many thought that Telesur was going to end. It is going to stay the path, and I always respond to that saying we have not given up and we will not give up. On the contrary, during this moment of greater difficulty, the channel continues to grow.
Telesur put a light on diverse social groups, ethnicities, and religions, traditionally marginalized and excluded from the bigger news platforms. Journalists have covered major events like the earthquake in Haiti, the coup in Honduras, the armed conflict in Colombia, and the destabilization in Venezuela.
That is the main vision of the channel, to be the voice of those who in any moment are kept quiet, that sometimes don't have a way to communicate. That is what Telesur intends to make known. That's why we're here. That is our work, to be the voice of the oppressed.
The Telesur signal is transmitted to the world in high definition and standard definition through 1,100 cable operators, 99 television channels, and other platforms. Its webpage receives almost 5 million monthly visits. In addition to the main headquarters in Caracas, it has an office in Ecuador and 25 correspondents in several countries.
This was a baby when we arrived here, but now we are very big.
Hugo Chavez and Cuban leader Fidel Castro were founders of the project, the promoters of Latin American unity, social justice, and solidarity through communication.
We have enhanced the truth. We have said what is not being said in other countries, what has been denied in many countries. Telesur, with its voice, has achieved truth for all the peoples of Latin America.
Telesur's programming includes geopolitical analysis and 3 bi-regional deals with TV channels from Russia, China, and Lebanon.
There is also a very ambitious dream that is already shaping up, which is our broadcast in English. We have been paying a lot of attention to this. For us, the Spanish anchors, it is also an important challenge to broadcast in other languages. Other anchors present in English, but since everybody here does everything, we should also be aware of this and take it as an important challenge.
To be a witness to and recorder of important events around the globe, defender of plurality, this media house turns 13 with a potential audience of 500 million viewers. Congratulations for those who at the international level have become Telesur citizens.
And earlier we spoke to our own political analyst, Tariq Ali, who spoke about the importance of alternative media.
The late President Chavez said, our aim must be to unite the people of South America and even other parts of the world. So we are not going to be irresponsible in just highlighting one country. We are for the entire continent. And that was the aim. And of course, not just the continent in a physical sense, but also another continent of ideas, of opinions which are never heard on the mainstream media. And despite all the problems, despite the sanctions that have been imposed on Venezuela by the United States and its European allies, Telesur has kept going.
So we're going to take a short break now, but join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting.
¡Salí a defender mi patria!
Welcome back. The New York governor has pardoned 7 more people who are facing deportation for previous minor criminal convictions. One is a 35-year-old Jamaican who left the U.S. to travel to Jamaica and was arrested upon returning because of a conviction over 15 years ago. This is the 3rd time Cuomo has used his power to grant clemency to immigrants. Now, Cuomo admits the move is a shot at President Trump's zero-tolerance immigration policy, saying, quote, "New York stands firm in our belief that our diversity is our greatest strength." Several people are feared dead and hundreds missing after a hydropower dam under construction in Laos collapsed. The collapse gave way to flash floods, which swept away homes, leaving more than 6,000 people homeless. The company building the dam claims the heavy rainfall and the flooding caused the collapse, and they are cooperating with the authorities to help rescue people in Sansai district of Atepu province. And at least 74 are dead in a holiday area or vacation area of Greece from fires. Wildfires spreading through the woodlands of Athens in Greece have also injured 170 people. Greek authorities are trying to evacuate residents and tourists from beaches along the coast. An official from the Red Cross confirmed that 26 bodies were found in the courtyard of a villa at the seaside resort of Mati. And we move now to Pakistan, where on the eve of its general election, security has been the main concern. The electoral campaign has been marred by violence, with around 180 people killed in different attacks across the country. About 371,000 troops will be deployed during the election. That's about 3 times the number at the last election in 2013. The economic crisis has been the other main topic in this race, which is said to be the tightest contest between the cricketer-turned-politician Imran Khan's PTI and the party of the jailed ex-Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, the PMLH.
As you already know, our country is in crisis. We hope good people get elected so our country can progress and move forward towards success. As far as security at polling stations is concerned, people are very much satisfied. The common folks are very satisfied, and because of this, our vote will go to the right person and no rigging will be possible.
And to dig into these general elections and what they mean for the future of the country, we are now joined by Mohammed Murad. He's a Pakistani journalist and social analyst who's been following the electoral process. Mohammed, thank you so much for joining us. Now, the army has apparently endorsed Imran Khan. Will this make a difference in the elections or for his chances?
Thank you for having me, first of all. And yeah, Imran Khan is actually one of the favorite candidates to be the next Prime Minister of Pakistan. But the impression that he is the only candidate who is getting the favor from the different state institutions is actually kind of exaggerated analysis so far. We actually do not know who is going to win the elections which are going to take place tomorrow. So it will be premature to say that who is going to get the support from different institutions. Let the voters decide who are going to decide by the ballot tomorrow.
Now, this electoral campaign has been marred by violence. Almost 200 people have been killed in different attacks. Who are the main targets and what is the aim of the bombings?
Actually, the bombers, they want to intimidate the people of Pakistan, and they think that by bombing us, they will stop us from exercising our democratic right. But in any way, the Pakistani people who have showed throughout the history of Pakistan that they will go out and vote at any cost. If you look into the electoral history of Pakistan, in 1970, we had a civil war. And from 1988 to 2010, during the 6 electoral processes, we lost almost 300 lives and over few hundred were injured. And in 2013, we lost almost 170 lives and almost 800 were injured. So far during these elections, the electoral process were quite peaceful until we met the deadly attack in Peshawar, then in Mastoon, Balochistan, and then in Dera Ismail Khan. We lost almost 170 lives in last 3 weeks during these electoral process. But the people, their hopes are high. They are going to vote at any cost tomorrow because we believe in bringing change by ballot, not by bullet.
Now, in one of your last pieces, you talk about the risk of the emergence of the new religious parties in the Congress. What kind of challenges could they pose for the country?
Actually, they might try to bring in their own kind of religious point of view within the parliament, and that will be quite risky for a country like Pakistan, which has already suffered a lot due to the religious extremism in past 70 years, and especially after the 9/11. So we would like to have some moderate people in the parliament who would like to take everyone on board, who will actually try and bring every person on board, irrespective of their ethnicity, irrespective of their religious beliefs, irrespective of their political beliefs. We all are Pakistanis, and we all believe being one Pakistani.
Mohammed Murad, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And finally, don't forget to tune in this evening for an exclusive interview with the President of Nicaragua, Daniel Ortega. You can see it at 9:30 p.m. Caracas and Eastern Standard Time, 8:30 p.m. in Kingston, and 6:30 p.m. in Los Angeles, only here on Telesur English. And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Sony Gray. Thank you so much for watching.
"31 days of adrenaline